Hey everyone, Jeff Johnson, creator of WeatherMaker. I've been hard at work creating a new WeatherMaker manager script. This is going to let WeatherMaker take control of your weather so that you don't have to fuss with setting manual things like wind intensity and rain and who knows what else that you have to set. This is basically going to be a fire and forget. Let WeatherMaker turn weather on and off, mess with the clouds. Just set it and forget it and let your game run, and WeatherMaker will take care of the weather for you. So I've been coding this for quite a while, debugging and tweaking. I think it's to a state I can release it to the asset store. So I'm going to run through the entire gamut of this. So this is basically going to be the documentation for this. So let's get started. Right now, you should know this is 3D only. So just be aware of that. I will put it in 2D eventually. If you load demo scene in 3D mode, you'll notice there's a new Weather Manager's object underneath WeatherMaker prefab. Right now I've added rain and snow weather patterns. Let's take a look at these high level. You can see for the rain I've got light, medium, heavy, and thunderstorm, along with non-rain conditions, sunny, light, medium, and heavy clouds. Same thing for snow, except thunderstorm is replaced by blizzard. Let's take a look at all these properties. There's two properties that deal with a change in weather. The first is the transition time. This is how many seconds your new transition group will take to reach full transition. The hold time is, once it does reach that full transition, how long does it last? I believe this is 2 to 4 minutes transition time, and this is 4 to 6 minutes hold time. Feel free to change these based on your game. Using the built-in cloud animation is recommended because all of these transitions are simply setting the cloud type, and by selecting the use built-in cloud animation, WeatherMaker will take this transition time and apply it to the cloud animation automatically so that you don't have to mess with that. So basically you leave this use built-in cloud animation on unless you have a really advanced scenario where you're animating every individual piece of the clouds, like the cloud cover, color, and various things. If you want to do that, you can uncheck that and do your own really advanced animations, but for most people, just leave that checked. Let's take a look at these transitions and weights. First of all, the weight is how likely the transition is. So basically, if you sum up all the weights and then take each individual weight and divide that by the sum of weights, that's the percent chance that this transition group will execute whenever the next transition group is chosen. So basically, the WeatherMaker manager is running in the background. Once a transition has finished or there is no current transition, it generates a number between 1 and the sum of weights. And then it uses that to pick one of these, and then it starts the transition using this transition time, and then it holds the transition for this random amount of time, and then it repeats that basically forever until you deactivate it. So let's take a look at how all these transition groups work. So every item in this list is called a transition group. A transition group contains a list of transitions. So for light rain, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 transitions. We're changing the clouds to heavy. We're changing the precipitation to rain. We're changing the precipitation intensity. And we are changing the wind intensity. All of the transitions can set various properties. Typically you'll be setting the clouds, the precipitation intensity, and the wind intensity. That's kind of the standard for whenever you want to create different types of weather. Let's take a look at these curves. Some fields can't be animated, such as enums or booleans. For those cases, the curve should just be a flat line at 1.0. That means the field gets set right at the beginning of the transition. Now remember, this use built-in cloud animation, that takes care of animating the change in cloud type for you. So that's very nice. Make sure to leave that checked unless you really have an advanced scenario. Basically for a bool or an enum, once the curve reaches 0.5, it goes ahead and changes the value for you. You'll see that in action when I check out the thunderstorm. I don't turn on the lightning right away. We'll get to that in a minute here. You can see changing the rain. That happens immediately. The precipitation intensity curve is a little more interesting. The precipitation intensity doesn't really change until you start getting in toward the middle of the transition, and that's so that the clouds have a chance to start forming. You don't want your rain to start right away when there's no clouds yet in the sky. So once the clouds start coming in, then this curve really ramps up and the intensity reaches full intensity pretty quickly. That's why the curve looks like that. The wind doesn't really care. It's a linear, so the wind changes basically linearly through the whole transition. And so basically all the transitions work the same. Let's go to thunderstorm and you can see what I mean by this enable lightning parameter here. So on this curve, it's a ease in curve. So basically the 0.5 threshold is crossed here, which is probably about 65% into the transition. At that point, lightning is turned on. So as your thunderstorm builds up, the lightning doesn't come on right away. It waits a while, and at 0.65% or 65%, that enable lightning gets turned on, and then you'll start seeing the lightning flashes. So I'll show you a demo of the thunderstorm here in a minute. Okay, so this is how you edit. All of these items can be dragged around using these little handles here. And then let's take a quick look at the snow. So the snow was basically the same. You've got blizzard here, no lightning in the blizzard, so pretty straightforward there. Okay, so you probably want to see this in action. So before I do that, there's a plus and minus here. So the way this works at a high level is this will add or remove a transition group. If you tap on this little icon, you highlight the transition group and you can delete it. Same thing once you go inside of here where we got a nested list. If you want to add or remove an individual transition within the transition group, you use these. Select to delete, and then plus will just add a new entry. Okay, I'm going to change my transition times to be small so you can see this in real time. You don't want to be watching this video for 30 minutes watching these lengthy transitions, but in your game you'll want them to be lengthy so the clouds take a long time to change and various things. Let's take a look at the sky here and start the manager. Looks like we're bringing in some heavy rain. Transition 6 seconds, hold for 7. So we've got some nice good heavy rain going on. Go ahead and turn these collisions on. Looks like we're going into thunderstorm mode. We might get a bit of lightning. I know the lightning's set to 5 to 10 seconds, so we might have gotten a small one. Now we're transitioning to heavy rain, which is going to look almost identical. Let's hope it transitions to something a little bit less rainy so you can see it transition out. Okay, there we go. So we got some lingering thunder from that thunderstorm. Now we're going to light rain. The rain kind of fades out. You can see the clouds are now heavy instead of stormy. Now we're going back to thunderstorm, so those clouds will become stormy and the precipitation builds up. Look at the trees blow more, the winds more. You can see the lightning coming in. And going back to heavy rain. So for a real nice effect, set the thunderstorm to 999 and then leave those transitions large and just sit back and watch it. It's kind of cool to see the thunderstorm take 3 or 4 minutes to build up and blow in. It's pretty cool. Hopefully we'll get a sunny or cloudy transition here so you can see the thunderstorm kind of completely dissipate. Oh good, we're going to sunny now, so this is going to remove all the clouds and the rain and lightning. So with everything's fading out, we're down to this very serene, docile scene now. You'll hear that thunder in the background, which the thunder can take up to 30 or so seconds, because in real life thunder that's far away takes a long time. So as long as your transitions are more than a couple minutes, you won't be having thunder in these clear daytime scenes. So looks like we're going to be bringing in some clouds but no rain. Again, as your transition times are high, 3 or 4 minutes, these clouds will fade in a lot slower and look a lot nicer. Okay, so I think we're probably good at watching these different transitions. I'm going to set the thunderstorm weight high so that we get a thunderstorm. I'm going to let it build in. Let's go ahead and run. Transition time's probably a little high for this video. Let's give it 30 seconds to build up. So let's just watch the sky as this thunderstorm kind of blows in. Watch the trees. You can see the precipitation still pretty low, but as that curve hits that thing, it kind of blows in real fast. Now we have a nice thunderstorm. Very windy. Pretty cool. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop this. There's probably a couple things to mention here. In the Weather Maker Manager, I do a couple of nice things. I turn off the lightning for every transition, so you don't have to be turning off the lightning every time you create a new transition group. It gets turned off automatically, and then if your transition turns it back on, so be it. The same thing for the wind. The wind gets set to a tiny value to give a little bit of realistic wind. So if you don't want the wind, you don't have to set it to 0 in your transition group. Just leave it off and it will go back to the default. Same thing for the clouds. You can see this cloud. If you're using the built-in cloud animation, it already gets set to the transition time. So you don't have to synchronize the cloud parameters with your transition. It's all done by simply setting the cloud's enum. That's pretty much all there is to managing weather. Very simple, I think, easy to use, pretty much a drag and drop. If you want to see how the configuration script is turning on that transition, when I click that manager button, all it's doing is calling this. There's also a couple of methods in Weather Maker script. You can activate a weather manager at a given index, and that's simply this list of weather managers right here. I think I've got the rain and snow on the list right now by default. You can add more weather managers if you have other types of weather you want to create. Please give me feedback. This is only version 1. If you have suggestions or bug reports, please email support@digitalruby.com, and I would love to help you out. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.